Today we continue on with our NHL season preview series. We're working our way now through teams in the Metropolitan Division. Today we look at the New York Rangers. They are a team that's gone through pretty extensive change over the last calendar year. This team has gone through a lot. Can they bounce back and get back to being a playoff team in 25-26? We'll discuss how this team has changed and their expectations coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we take a look at the New York Rangers and preview their upcoming 25-26 NHL season. They're going to be, to me, one of the more interesting, fascinating teams to watch because they've gone through pretty extensive change, and we are going to see now how they bounce back, or can they bounce back. They've had a coaching change. They've had a good amount of roster change. This team had high expectations last year and certainly didn't meet them, which resulted in a lot of those changes, and now they're looking to bounce back with a new look team. So we're going to recap how things went last year. We'll analyze those numbers, the team and individual stats, all the changes that we saw during the season, look at their cap space, additions, subtractions, any rookies, trades we might see, and then we'll look at their projected lineup and their top questions facing the team going into the season. So let's first start by recapping last year. The Rangers had an 85-point season and finished in 5th place in the Metro Division, of course missing the playoffs with a record of 39, 36, and 7. They scored 255 goals, 12th best in the league. That wasn't too bad. That was pretty good. They also allowed 255 goals, which was 19th best. Not horrible, but certainly needs to be better for sure. So obviously this team, was fairly balanced with the goals, 4 goals against, which isn't really what you want. You usually need a decent, not super high number, but like a good positive differential to have a good shot at the playoffs. Unfortunately, where they did miss last year. They only have a 1-year streak now. It's the first time they missed the playoffs in 3 years. They had made the previous 3 consecutive years, including 2 of those going to conference finals. So, this was a team, like I said, that had made the playoffs 3 straight years, 2 conference final appearances. They thought they had a shot at contending, getting to at least the Final Four again, let alone, kind of really hitting a major skid and missing the playoffs. It's not something that the team really saw coming, but they also went into the season last year with drama. We saw the last offseason how some of the players were dealt with by GM Chris Drury, and I think it carried over. We heard that they were basically trying to get rid of Jacob Trouba at all means, and, it never ended up happening. So they ended up going into the season. You can't tell me that wasn't a distraction. Obviously, Trouba ends up getting dealt later, but, it's something that we had heard which players were available and all that, and just I don't think things were going well. We heard it a lot during the season last year. There seemed to be a bit of a divide, so we're going to be curious to see how things kind of bounce back. The top scorers for last year included Artemi Panarin at 89 points. Mika Zibanejad had a down season, but was still second in scoring, 62 points. Adam Fox, 61 points, pretty good for a top defenseman. Vinny Trocheck at 59, and Alexis Lafreniere had 45, which is not what you expect from him after inking a $7+ million deal long term. During the season, we saw, like I said, significant changes. They made a big trade with Vancouver, brought in JT Miller. That's something that they're hoping will pay off long term. They really, I think, had been itching for a Miller reunion for some time, and they just recently named JT Miller the new captain of the New York Rangers as well. So clearly they like his intensity. They like how he handles his business. Obviously, some of the players in Vancouver that didn't mesh well with, but in New York, it's very well received and very much appreciated, and they've given him that role as captain now to kind of light that fire under the team, if you will. So, of course, that deal went down. That saw Filipino go out of town as being a part of the package to the Canucks. We saw them trade Capo Caco to the Kraken. Ryan Lindgren was moved to the Avalanche. Trouba found his way to the Anaheim Ducks. Riley Smith went back to Vegas. And after all that, Peter Laviolette was not coming back. He was dismissed as head coach. And they've brought in former Penguin coach who found himself out of a job, Mike Sullivan. After a decade with Crosby and the Penguins, Sullivan goes to the Rangers, of course, he's got history there, got history with Drury through USA Hockey. No big, surprise. As soon as Sullivan was let go, pretty much within minutes, everybody's like, okay, is he going to New York or Boston? Because he's got connections at both teams, and we'll see. He'll have to pick up the litter here between 2 original 6 franchises. So Sullivan is the new head coach. Obviously, has a great resume, lots of success, but it's been a while since he's had a team that's really competed, any kind of deep runs or anything. Like they won back-to-back cups, 16-17, lost in the second round in 18, and then the Penguins have been out of the playoffs or first-round exit ever since. So we'll see. I mean, Sullivan hasn't forgotten how to coach, though, so obviously we'll see what he does with this group. Going into the season, they are tight on space. They have under $1 million in cap space, $777,000. I assume that's probably by design. If they wanted to sign somebody at league minimum, they could still do that. But this team has seen significant change. So we'll see. I don't know that we're going to see any more additional late signings, but I guess you never know. Looking at the subtractions first, the most prominent one being Chris Kreider, another longtime veteran, gets the treatment to move on during the offseason, ends up again in Anaheim with his old buddy Jacob Trouba. So the Ducks and the Rangers have done a few deals now with their veteran players. So Kreider, they thought needed to change the scenery. You could tell last year, I think, that some people kind of questioned his effort level or his production, and I know there was injuries, and there was just a lot going on. And the longtime Ranger, the team felt it was time for a change. So he's gone. Nicholas Aubé-Kubel moves on. Alex Belzil gone. Arthur Kaliev, who had come over from LA earlier in the year, I'm pretty sure they got him on waivers if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't brought back. Jake Leschyshyn was let go. Of course, they had the big trade with the Canes around K-Andre Miller. There was some talk, and which I believe to be true, that the Canes had threatened to offer sheet Miller, so they worked out a trade instead. Zach Jones also wasn't brought back. So definitely they've been turned a lot of turnover on the blue line here and kind of remixing everything, trying to mix in some more younger players too. I mean, in the case of the Blue Liners, they're not exactly older veterans, but on the forward group, trying to mix in some younger talent as well. New to the team this year, we've got the biggest addition would be Vladislav Gavrikov. Of course, the big free agent signing, was over as one of the better defensive defensemen in the NHL. Leaves the Los Angeles Kings for New York as a UFA, so that's a big signing there. They also signed Justin Dowling. They bring in Taylor Radish from the Capitals. They picked up Trey Fix-Wolanski, who's likely going to play with their AHL club. Same with Kerry Terrence. Scott Morrow and Derek Pouliot also likely heading for their AHL team. I would suspect Morrow might have a shot at being maybe the seventh defenseman. They also brought in, who's kind of new to the team as well, Juuso Parssinen, who came over, of course, from the Avalanche trade with Lindgren. So he was new towards the end of last year. And then, of course, they had Connor Sherry on a PTO. So we'll see if they end up signing Sherry or not. Now, what are the rookies? Who are the rookies that might impact this team this year? Is there any talent? And, we look at that at all these teams in every video, and this team has some rookies. I suspect Gabe Perreault will be one of those players that you never know. He might be in a Calder conversation. It's hard to say. He's got the talent, there's no doubt. But it's going to be a pretty deep rookie class, I think, this year. I think we could see Perreault. As we look at the projected lineup here in a minute, we'll see, according to Daily Faceoff's projections, they don't have him being in the original opening night lineup. I think he will be. I think Perreault will work his way in, even if he's not there in the first night, and likely get a chance to play in the top three lines and probably produce at a decent level. It's a big year for Brennan Othmann as well. Othmann, if he can't stick in the NHL this year, then I suspect the Rangers will probably move him. So we'll see. Brendan Brisson might be another guy. I don't think he'll start in the NHL, but he could be a call-up option for them, looking at some potential injuries that they might run into down the road. Is there any contract extensions that could be noteworthy or newsworthy this year? Maybe, but I don't suspect there's going to be much of it. Braden Schneider on the back end's eligible, so we might see them lock him up. And, of course, there's a lot of wondering about the future of Artemi Panarin as well, who is a pending UFA. It was a great UFA signing. Hard to imagine that contract is almost set to expire here, but Panarin will be eligible. I don't know if they're going to do it. Maybe they wait to the end of the season. Lots of uncertainty around that. Alexis Lafreniere is a player I would say to watch this year as well. I do think it's possible if they do decide that they need to make a trade to shake things up, or if they're not getting what they need out of Lafreniere, that maybe a fresh start might be in order. So we'll see about him. But as far as trade candidates go, I don't think they're actively looking to move him, but I can see that maybe becoming a topic to watch this season, depending on how things go. Now, looking at their projected lineup for opening night, you have a goaltending tandem that's been the same for a couple of years now. Igor Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick, no big surprises there. On the back end, you're looking at a decor of like a top pair of like the Gavrikov with Fox. That should be a good pair. And then after that, it does get weaker after that with all the changes they made. We'll see how it works out. You're looking at Susi and Borgen likely being a pair with Vakanainen and Braden Schneider. So, again, I like Schneider. Borgen might be a little bit underrated at times. Susi, I'm not real sure on. Vakanainen too. So, like, I could see a scenario where maybe they do try to upgrade their blue line at some point, and they might have to sacrifice a forward to do that if they decide to go down that road. The forward group up front, you're likely looking at JT Miller with Mika Zibanejad on his wing. I do believe that's going to be something Sullivan wants to try to stick with. I suspect you're probably going to get another combo of Trocheck with Panarin. And so you're probably going to put Lafreniere with Miller and Mika. Would be my suggestion. Is probably what you're going to see based on Daily Faceoff's projections here. Give Lafreniere a shot to produce with those guys. Put Panarin with Trocheck and maybe Taylor Radish. But I do think there's a chance Gabe Perreault could grab that spot and Radish can play lower in the lineup. You could have a third line of... Now, the other thing, too, is I think Will Cooley deserves to play in the top six, too, right? So, but he's usually more on the left side, so I'm not sure how they're going to do that between Panarin, Lafreniere, and Cooley. Maybe one plays their offside. It's possible they could go down that route as well. If Cooley wants to play if they can comfortable putting him on the right side, or Panarin. I know they don't always do that, but we'll see. And then, of course, like I said, you get Gabe Perreault, kind of throws another questionable in their mix, but Cooley's more established. So, like, either way, you could put, if Cooley's in the top six, then you move Radish down. You have a third line, maybe of Parsonen, maybe Perreault and Hoffman, for example. That might be a good third line as well. Sam Carrick, likely your fourth line center. Matt Rempe and Edstrom's likely your other forward on that line. So, at the end of the day, I do think that they have a pretty good top nine. And then they have some grit on the fourth line. So, all in all, pretty solid overall group of forwards. My big question mark for me is on the back end, but we'll see. The top questions, though, facing the franchise is Ken Lafreniere. Can he be a 70, 80-point player? By this stage of his career where he was drafted, all the expectations, he should be producing more. He was given that big contract after a breakthrough season, and he did not follow it up with a good campaign. So his performance this year, I think, is going to be very important, not only to the team's success, but his own individual success. And I think we could see him possibly end up in a trade if it's not working out or he's not playing the way that they expect. Whether or not they re-sign Panarin or not is another big question. There's a lot of talk that if Kaprizov doesn't re-sign in Minnesota, that they may be looking at that. And of course, McDavid's not signed as I record this video too. So teams like the Rangers and some of the other big markets are definitely probably going to hold back some cap space and maybe wait to extend too many players, because there's so many big names that could be in free agency next year that if they had any chance to either get Kaprizov or McDavid or any of these guys, they're going to want to be able to be in on that. So that's why I don't think we're going to see much in the way of extensions this year for some of these players that are in their last year. I think they'll take the wait and see approach as the top players eventually, if they do re-sign and stay put, then teams might go down that route more because they know there's going to be less available in free agency. But until like Kaprizov and McDavid are signed, they probably won't do much for the just in case, the glimmer of hope. You never know. So I don't think we're going to see a Panarin extension too quickly unless some of those other names get locked up already. And can Zibanejad bounce back? Big question mark. He can be a 40-goal guy. He can be an 80, 90-point player. Can Miller help bring that out in him? So that's a big question for me as well. And same thing with JT Miller, a full season in New York. He's got to see I think he's a player who can produce under pressure, and I think he could be a big part of that team. And can he be back to being, a 90 to 100-point player like he was a couple of years ago in Vancouver? It's another big factor. So this team, like I said, they have a new coach. They've gone through a lot of change, but they have a lot of good players. And I can understand and see how this team could easily bounce back and get back into the top three of the Metro Division. I think they're right there with teams like the Devils and the Hurricanes. I think it could be an interesting matchup. I wonder about the Capitals this year. Are we going to see Washington take a step back? If they do, that could be the opening the Rangers need. and they could easily get back into playoff contention. I would be surprised if the Rangers missed the playoffs for a second straight year. I really would, but there's some variables there that require a lot of bouncing back and a lot of players getting back to where they were 2 years ago or more, and that's just, it's hard to say with any kind of certainty that that's all going to happen and everything that needs to go right will go right. But if a lot of it does, this should be a pretty good team, and they should have a pretty good success, and it be right in the playoff mix and right down to the wire and probably squeak in there. That's what I think. And if they're in, anything can happen. They could win a round or two. You just never know. We'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts and expectations for the New York Rangers going into the 25-26 season, and we'll discuss further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.